Welcome back to round 5 of the Milwaukee Battle Hardened. I'm Steven. You're Sam.
Yep.
That's what they call us. And sometimes in chat they call me the overtired guy with 3 kids, and you the 28-year-old Adonis.
Well, okay.
I'm pretty sure they call you that.
I don't know if I can guarantee you no one's ever called me that. I'm 27. The Adonis thing all the time.
Even better. Even better. There it is. So now chat will call you that. You're welcome for that.
Thank you.
But you know what? We're cruising through the rounds today. We've got, I believe, 7 rounds of Swiss before we move into the top 8. And keep in mind, here at the Battle Hardened, it's going all day. We're going to crown a champion today of this Battle Hardened. So don't go anywhere else. Sit down, watch this with us, enjoy the experience of Flesh and Blood in this newest Rosetta set. Look, we're even giving away boxes of Rosetta. We've already given one of these away to a lucky viewer. I'm holding mine upside down because I'm sleep deprived, and that's just how it goes sometimes when you have 3 kids. But we have another game for you. This one is Florian centered. I think it's the first time we've seen Florian today, actually.
That is true.
I don't think we've seen Florian
That is
before
true.
this.
Let's go ahead and dive on in. We've got Jonathan Magnuson and Zachary Suchemel. It's probably not French, but could be. On New Alluring Desire, this is going to be our first look, like you said, at Florian. Looks like the first turn from Florian there is just going to be the Malefic Incantation, make a rune chant with the Grasp, and then Arsenal Pass. So it's now off to Zachary's turn, coming in with the Scale Peeler here.
Yeah, I want to point out really quickly the equipment suite that we see over at the top for Jonathan Magnuson. We have some of the sort of normal things you'd expect. Face Purgatory, a fantastic card in its own right, and it plays well in Florian. We've got Dyadic Carapace, which has been cited in not just for Arcane Barrier, but it blocks 2 and then 1 after that. But Snapdragon Scaler, something you don't necessarily see when you expect to sit down and play a big, heavy attack deck, and there's perhaps a reason why we've got an Arcanic Crackle that could, spell a more aggressive slant to this deck. And Jonathan sitting at 3 and 1 is really showing up and showing why he might, and there's the reason why. Yep, Channel Mount Heroic is in the deck, and well, not anymore.
Whoa.
But it's in circulation.
Dude, he's got a Nimblism as well in the hand. This is a friggin' cool Florian deck we're about to get to watch. Interestingly, something I want to point out as well, Zachary played the Slither after the Hiss rather than just keep it for the Arsenal, something he was not wanting to keep in there, interestingly enough, but this is just going to be a Nimblism into the Ravenous Rabble. It's going to come along with the Rune Chant. It's going to make a Rune Chant as well from the Malefic Incantation, and we're going to see the Bramble Spark, Channel Mount Heroic, and Florian Snapdragon Scalers. Fascinating to see. Well-grounded, can do so much for you, especially against a deck that likes a lot of attack reactions. Can be your card in the final card for a banish, for a decompose, but maybe that's not what he's playing towards.
No, this is definitely an aggressively leaning version of the deck. It's not the way most players take it, but it's doing well for Jonathan. And this is what's so cool to me about these new heroes, is that they can be played in so many different ways. You don't see this more aggressive leaning Channel Mount Heroic as often. I mean, it's brand new. You probably don't see it very often in general yet. But this could be a watershed moment for a hero that is only viewed in one light, whereas, hey, maybe you play this direction. Maybe you play Channel Mount Heroic and you play these, wide go attack type turns.
Command and Conquer, they're not going to buy anything from Jonathan. He buys a block, but doesn't buy an Arsenal, given that Jonathan didn't have one. So new here at 34 to Florian's 32. Bramble Spark going to go ahead and be fused with the Tome of Harvests. Now a Rune Chant being created, and a Rune Chant made off the back of the Malefic Incantation, so threatening the +3 and the Arcane with the Bramble Spark. Looks like that's going to go ahead and be pitched into with this Persuasive Prognosis.
And I just want to point out how this looks. Like, look at what we have on the board here. We've got non-attack into large attack into Rosetta Thorn. No, and I'm sorry, it's not Rosetta Thorn. It's a 1 for 3 instead.
Still starts with an R, still the Reaping Blade.
Exactly.
That one was for 4 with the Rune Chant.
It was, right? A total value of 4. But the play pattern is eerily similar to the Cheerios Briar that played Channel Mount Heroic of old. And that's cool that you can do this as Florian if you choose to.
So Zach was able to go ahead and arsenal a card there. I think that this is partially why he wanted to keep the arsenal open, because that Slither, he wouldn't have had the chance to use it from now until when that first turn of the game was. It looks like he wants to keep some defensive pieces, but look at this. A Rune Chant coming in, threatening 4 damage thanks to the channel of the Millennium Tree and a Reaping Blade, 2 Earth cards in the pitch. That Millennium Tree will be around for another turn. He'll be getting, looks to be at least 3, potentially 6 value after that Millennium Tree if he creates a Rune Chant on his next turn as well. Jonathan's going to keep a card in the arsenal here as Florian. This is by far the most just kind of like, I use this word, I don't mean in a bad way, but like normal looking Florian deck we've seen, like normal Runeblade looking deck, right? Doing Runeblade things we've seen before in this Earth shell.
Yeah. Keep in mind, by amping the Rune Chant, you can only cover 1 portion of that 4 packet of damage.
Oh,
so
absolutely.
this will leak 3 if you were wondering why that die was indicating that. It will leak 3. He's going to channel here, of course, arsenaling as well. The real question with like a setup like this is, does it have the legs into a variety of matchups, and can you really extract enough value out of some of these cards? Like, for example, channel Millennium Tree here. Can you get more than 6 value out of it? Can you have it last for more than just 2 turns? Because if it's a 2-card 6, so be it. But can you get more than just the normal rate for it? Otherwise, are you more incentivized to perhaps play a different style of the deck? And we're going to watch it kind of come to fruition here.
Oh, fascinatingly as well, we've got the Dyadic Carapace instead of the bark of the Millennium Tree, which leads me to believe that perhaps Jonathan doesn't consider, like, the Florian hero ability banishing a bunch of Earth cards. We haven't really seen much in the way of the Decompose yet, but News hero ability might lead to enough Earth cards in the banished zone that maybe Barkskin would have been an interesting choice here in the matchup. Wonder if he even has it in the deck. Siren's Call can go ahead and grab that Germinate off the combat chain, meaning that News going to get to draw a card, and also the Erase Face will be blocked out.
Now, that is that's a bit of a blessing and a curse, because you're taking that card away, but you're not stymieing the turn. I can't quite make out what 2 cards he has in hand. It looks
Scar
like
for Scar and a Sonata Arcanic.
Right, exactly. It looked like one of them was an attack. So you're not taking a card that was actually impactful, but you're trying to slow roll or maybe stop the value from that channel, the Millennium Tree.
Well, and how sick is this? The amp from the channel, the Millennium Tree, is going to apply to the 1 damage that's now being presented from the Sonata Arcanic. So here's now another 4 arcane damage coming across from the Sonata. It's going to draw a card. Now, Jonathan will be able to come in with the Reaping Blade as well as the Rune Chant from the the Grasp of the Arknight here.
Yes. Pitching into Grasp to make another Rune Chant here that does get an Earth card into the pitch, but unfortunately it doesn't get 2, and so we know this is the end of the road for the channel, the Millennium Tree. That will create a second Rune Chant, that's correct, because Malefic does trigger on the play of the Scar for Scar. It's not being sent now. Now he has the capacity to snap here, which means that we have something in the arsenal, or we're just trying to get more value out of the Reaping Blade. Yep.
Yeah, it's just going to be the value from the Reaping Blade. So here's 1 Arcane and 3 points of damage. Just looks like Jonathan wants to just make sure he gets the value out of all of the cards that he pitched. And again, that Fruits of the Forest, this is all possible thanks to that Sonata Arcanix hitting. That Sonata Arcanix was pretty damn good. Got you the blue pitch you needed, and got you 3 arcane damage thanks to the Millennium Tree.
Yes, this is a really interesting choice to use the Snapdragons there, because it really represents 4 value. And I guess the question is, if you're playing this type of like low to the ground 4 attack type deck, what is that card going to represent in value? Most of the time it's going to represent 4, so why not use it there when you know you have 4 lined up? It's a really interesting proposition, you know?
I'm saying, I really don't think you're going to +1 this, and I too was also like just checking the arm slot, like, does he have the Arousing Wave? Does he have an ability to pump this up? Most likely, no. No Tunic up, 1 card in the arsenal, unless... And even Shred wouldn't work here because it's not an assassin card on the combat chain. So
you have to have the Transcend card that +1s. That's the grain that tips the scales.
That is the one. That's the one.
Nuttiest one, right?
Let's see here what Jonathan wants to do. He does have the ability to give just the Dyadic Carapace, the Grasp, and a 3-block to get over this. Looks like it might be 2 2-blocks and a 2-block from the equipment zone.
Yeah. Pointing out a couple of things. Cadaver's Tilling being offered in block there to trigger the Face Purgatory. That is one of the few Decompose cards we've seen. But also drawn in the hand right now, we have the Channel Mount Heroic, and that is a card that I would imagine he was looking to establish on this turn. It just got even better because he now gets an Arsenal alongside of drawing the card off of Face Purgatory.
Gets the Arsenal, gets to come in for 7, 1 damage over the top. This aggressive Florian list doing what I suppose it wants to do. Let's see, New here coming in. This is going to be 6 damage. Now, this turn, potentially, Jonathan might be okay with this unless he has cards that need Earth cards or Runeblade cards, right? Like something like a Mauvern's Guise that gives your next Runeblade attack go again. You know, that would be one of the use cases for Erase Face to be important here. I wonder how much value he's going to be able to really squeeze out of this Channel Mount Heroic.
It's just so fun to watch this game because on a normal axis, like if you're sitting in this from a macro perspective, from news side of things, you are playing all of these big attacks because you don't want your stealth cards to banish and turn the decompose effects or turn the banish effect on for Florian's hero effect. So you're actively trying to play against this normal game plan of like block, encourage my opponent to block with their earth cards and they get value. So we're playing all these big attacks, but now we're playing this like go wide, low to the ground aggro deck. Does this this game plan match up with this anymore? That's a really interesting back and forth.
Yeah, look at that. The Siren's Call going to buy the Germinate out of the hand here. This is just going to be Ravenous Rabble, reveal off the top, but it's a blue. So the +3 from the Channel Mount Heroic just going to bring this up to 5 instead of what could have been 7 on this turn.
Losing 2 points of value by deck building. Nevertheless, this representing 5. What was the other card in hand that we saw revealed earlier?
It was a blue because it was one of the choices he could have with Germinate. I think a Sow Tomorrow. Yeah, it's going to be a Sow Tomorrow into just a Fruits of the Forest. Interestingly, the Erase Face there wasn't very threatening. I guess to try to keep the Channel Mount Heroic around is what he was hoping to do by pitching 2 Earth cards. That must have been the reason for trying to full block the Erase Face. Here, though, now, because that card was taken with the Siren's Call, that Channel Mount Heroic is headed to the graveyard after this Fruits of the Forest cracks in for 8. Blue, 8 attack. What are we playing, Guardian?
That's not bad at all, right? Going to clean up. That does remove the channel. Drawing 4 cards. But the game not necessarily going the way that I bet Zach was perhaps expecting, unless he knew that this list was different. Because like I said, you side in all of these big attacks so that you're not actively banishing Earth cards that are being blocked with and turning on Florian's effect so that all these Germinates go crazy. So you're playing these big attacks like back and forth, big attack, and playing a more pedestrian game plan. Maybe he wants to be leaning into the blue small attacks more and trying to go toe-to-toe.
Look at this. Fang Strike and Slither being created as the Sacred Art of Undercurrent Desires is going to resolve, followed by the Homage to Ancestors. See a couple of those blue cards being headed to the graveyard there, or Banish Zone, and now it looks like 4 Earth cards are in the Banish Zone, if that die is to be believed. Activating New here, going to look at the top of the deck, and now some attacks might be coming out of the Banish Zone thanks to that Slither.
This is activating. Now you have the capacity, like you said, to play some of these out. Keep in mind that you can play them out. They are free.
Now, So Tomorrow, I don't believe, unless Zachary wants to.
There's no point, yeah.
So Tomorrow, you could get out of the Banish Zone theoretically for 4 cards like Felling of the Crown, 4 cards like Plow Under. But I wonder, can you target your opponent's graveyard?
I don't believe so.
Then there wouldn't be an Earth or Elemental card that Zachary would be able to target with the So Tomorrow.
Using the Slither and the Fang Strike that he just created to be able to send both of these attacks.
Yeah, 5 into 5 here.
Jonathan playing with a life lead, though, looking at this, and it represents 1/5 of his health. But sitting with a full hand, can't quite make out what cards are in there. Is that the Flourish from the Terra?
I think it might
Looks
be.
like,
Yeah,
that's
it is.
Flourish,
Cadaverous Tilling, and the Swarming Gloomveil. There was a 4th card in the hand.
What a wild list to just pop up on a backup game. And this is why you tune in, folks.
Reactions, no reactions. Jonathan's going to take 5 down to 20. New at 12 to Florian's 20 after this damage is resolved and goes through. We can grasp, and we can go ahead and come in with the Swarming Gloomveil, follow this up with the Reaping Blade. keep that final card for the arsenal. Still a fair amount of damage, 3 into 3 with 1 arcane damage off of just a couple cards.
And it keeps tilling in the arsenal, like you mentioned, meaning that you can play out your next turn sequence fairly well. Going to block there, send the 3, and clean on up. Both players playing quickly. Of course, we do have it sped up a bit, if you're wondering at home. They are moving quickly, but it is also sped up. The sending the Bonds of Attraction for 1 here.
2 cards in hand for new. Hearing that Jonathan is the pioneer of the Channel Mount Heroic version of Starvo that was around back in the day. So he clearly likes the card, wants to make it work in the Earth Heroes he can.
And we could be seeing it tomorrow because tomorrow is the Living Legend format event. So if you're looking to watch some more Flesh and Blood and you'd like to see what the Living Legend format has to offer, tune in tomorrow because we will be bringing you coverage of that as well. This is going to trigger the Mask of Recurring Nightmares after pitching that chi, playing the chi, then pitching the chi.
Banish the E-Strike, and then come in with Just a Nick to push this up to even more damage. This will be 2 banishes off the top of the deck, and then a card banished from the graveyard. That's a Channel the Millennium Tree. That is a Thistlebloom in life. So if a red card is banished, that means Bonds of Attraction can trigger and some life will be gained by new here. Up to 13 when all is said and done. Jonathan's got 3 cards left in hand, 1 card in the arsenal. Now 6 Earth cards in the pitch, or in the banish zone. Jonathan's at 14, coming in, making the Rune Chant, coming in with the Rune Rager Swarm. 1 and 3, go again.
Yeah, and he's going to be able to follow this up either with the Blade or, more importantly, with a larger attack, something like Cadaverous Tilling. No, it's just going to be Swarming. And then totally effective of a 6 power across the board. 3, 6, 9 total on the turn, plus the Rune Chant from earlier.
That means E-Strike here for new. This is just 7 new, just trying to turn this game into a bit of a race now that we're so low. Put Jonathan in the position of dying to just a attack reaction out of nowhere. As Jonathan, half his life total taken by the E-Strike, down to 7. Bramble Spark, we're going to fuse Tome of Harvests here. Play the Tome of Harvests. Put that Arsenal card on the bottom. How about 3 new cards? We've got a Bramble Spark floating, which could be an Arcane, and +3. We're playing off the top of the deck, though, if we are Jonathan. Let's see. It looks like it's going to be a Malefic Incantation. We're going to follow that up with the Rune Rager Swarm. So this is going to come in with the 1 Arcane from the Bramble Spark. It's going to be coming in for 6 Go Again and a Rune Chant. So 2 Arcane, 6 Physical, and we still got more cards to work with.
The fact that this turn isn't over is a dangerous proposition for Zach on the side of new. Looking at his 4-card hand, looks like everything can be blocked if he chooses to. He has blocking cards in hand. Doesn't look like he's stuck with maybe an uncomfortable like Chi or Transcend card. Nevertheless, he's going to be presented a lot of damage. The gloves here being able to pitch into Arcane Barrier, but choosing not to do that doesn't seem to extract value out of that. Oh, he's got his own Bonds of Agony with an attack reaction in his hand, so maybe he's trying to just weather the storm, maybe make an effective block and try to blow this game wide open. But he needs more resources, and he needs attack reactions.
I wonder if we're still thinking about the Rune Chant. The other cool part of the Widow Claw, I believe, arms down there is they do also have Spell Void as well.
The Rune Chant will come after this because I believe the Malefic made the Rune Chant. So it will effectively be 2 Arcane. It's just going to be split across the board here.
Here's 7 and an Arcane. Zachary's got to think about this. He can Spell Void if he'd like. No, looks like going down to 4, and then now has to give a 3 block plus something else to stay alive.
Yeah, we could see a Mask block here. We could see a 2-card hand sending 1 card on your own turn, or maybe just trying to Arsenal and try to play for a 5-card hand, but you're just so low of life. Giving your opponent the ability to play out their own just pure 4 cards feels quite scary, unless you feel like your opponent is going to have one of those Runeblade hands. It's a dangerous game that you play to not commit to blocking here, or to just play out a 1-card hand or Arsenal. Just queuing up a 6 block.
Taking 1 is new here, down to 3 to Florian 7.
Does look like he's just going to pass. So that means the game is up to these 4 cards, and that's a find.
Not Arcanics. There's an attack. There's an on-attack. There's an attack. He's going to go ahead and grab the blue here, keeping the Enlightened Strike. That gives us some information.
And he has a Nimblism in hand, too, which is the really interesting part, because you could combo that together quite well. Maybe it means he already has an E-Strike in hand or something like that that's low to the ground. Maybe he just wants it for the fuse for the Bramble Spark.
Ah, that is what it is. The Bramble Spark going to go ahead and threaten another Arcane as well. Make a Rune Chant with the Grasp with the Arcanite. 2 floating because that card in the pitch zone. There's the Grain that tips the scales. That was what could have helped that CNC earlier. Now it's going to be used for pitch. Ravenous Rabble, let's reveal the top. It is a red, so we're getting +3 from the Nimblism. It's going to be 10 here with the Bramble Spark and the Nimblism and 1 Arcane and the Rune Chant. Those are both, looks like, going to be eaten up by the Grain that tips the scale in the pitch zone.
Yeah, he's covering up the Rune Chant and the Arcane. That's already, I believe, represented. The Malefic is going to make 1 on the back end.
That's what you're seeing on the screen.
If this turn continues, which we can imagine it will, that Reaping Blade's going to send another point of Arcane. And he can give the equipment. That's his only out.
Yeah, that's the only way to stay alive here. You give all 3 block. Now you've got Spell Void 1 and Arcane Barrier 1, but the onus once again here.
He passes again. Of course, the Arsenal not effective as a 1-card hand. And he draws it up. Can he do it again? Jonathan sending more Arcane damage. Going to pitch for Grasp, of course, to start things off. Having to get that Rune Rager go again by creating the Aura, but the Malefic finally pops on the final one here. It's going to create a Rune Chant in the back end as well. Sink Below, finally a decent feeling answer, but unfortunately losing a point of value against a deck that is perhaps trying to present some amount of breakpoints. Here it's just 3 and 1. The breakpoints are coming from the Arcane. This Arcanic Crackle sends across its own point of Arcane, along with that Rune Chant that was just created off of the Malefic. And this means that Jonathan, if he doesn't close it out right here, gets to play a 5-card hand.
See how Zachary wants to handle this. Going to give the Codex of Frailty. Taking 1, down 2-1. So card in hand, card in arsenal. As Jonathan's at 7 here. Let's see what he can do with it. Oh, it's a no block in the hand.
He's going to crack the silver to draw a new card. And he passes.
Interesting. He had a blue non-block that he could have used for the pitch at the start of the turn, but rather used the Bonds of Agony there. It's an interesting use of both of those cards. However, we're going to go ahead and just channel Mount Heroic to come in with Enlightened Strike. 8, go again. What's the follow-up? Arcanic Crackle. There's 1 Arcane. He does have Spell Void, but there is 6. So that means you have to find a defense reaction.
Wow, and he actually
in the arsenal, which he does not have.
Everything lined up, but the channel mount, the reason you play this version of the deck, proves why it functions, and he wins the game off the back of the extra points of damage. What a crazy backup match to see. That was incredible to watch.
He channeled all the time. He channeled all over the place. He channeled the Millennium Tree. He channeled the
Mount Heroic.
Thank you. He channeled the Mount Heroic, and it got him a lot of value. Got him a lot of Arcane, got him a lot of physical damage, and it carried him to the victory there. So congratulations to our Florian player, Jonathan, for moving on to the X and 1 bracket.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break before we get right into our next game, which will be a Warrior on stream. So I know all my Warrior fans want to see that. We've just got a couple rounds left of Swiss. 3-minute break. We'll be right back. See you in a sec.